Happy draft day, ladies and gentlemen. Um, we're going to give this a shot. It's going to be fantastic. Um, we're having some technical difficulties with Seth, so it's going to be just me for a while as we get rolling. Um, what we know right now is that the Twins will be on the clock in approximately a half hour, and they'll be drafting fifth. Um, we are going to have Seth online as soon as we can get him here. We have John Bonus in the house. He is currently at Target Field, and he is hoping to get some audio here from the pick as well as the Twins. Rumors have been going nuts today as far as what's going to happen. If you were on Twins Daily yesterday, I posted a mock draft as well as kind of my thoughts on what the Twins board could possibly be. So what we're looking at right now is the Astros will be on the clock shortly, and you never know what the Astros are going to do. They surprised with Correa 2 years ago, made a move to save some money, and did that. Later they were able to catch up with Lance McCullers and Rio Ruiz. And last year they went more the typical route where they took the best player available, which they felt was Mark Appel, signed him for a decent amount of money, and he's been having some issues as far as basically anything that has to do with pitching, which makes me wonder if they want to go the route of a college pitcher again, which would be Carlos Rodon. There hasn't been a lot of support for that recently, and Brady Aiken seems to be the guy. As far as Miami goes, there's a lot of steam that they're going to go with the Cuban-American Carlos Rodon, and that's going to be kind of the owner's decision, even though the scouts may prefer Alex Jackson. That puts number 3 at the White Sox, and they were in on Kolek, then they were out on Kolek, then they were in on Kolek. I think the general consensus, again, is that they will take Kolek. That gets you to the Cubs, who have been rumored to be all over a college bat, which would drop a guy that the Twins are very, very high on in Nick Gordon. Seth, how are you doing this wonderful Thursday evening?
I'm doing great. I apologize to everyone. I was thinking I was being smart by getting everything disconnected and reconnected so to make sure nothing would go wrong once we started. Pretty much everything went wrong. So I'm here on my phone, but I think we've got a good connection, and I apologize to everyone for being a little bit tardy here.
Seth, you sound fantastic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So I just I went through a rundown of some of the possibilities of 1 through 5. That what I just said probably doesn't follow my final mock draft at all. In fact, I know it doesn't. But as I reminded Seth here not too long ago, what we expected the Cubs to do in the first round last year, they didn't do. And that may be a turning point in this draft. It may not be. At this point, I think a lot of people are very, very comfortable with what they have for their mocks. And at the same time, nobody's ever correct. So, my belief now is that Aiken is 1 on the Twins board and Gordon is 2. At that point, if they were to both be off the board, you're looking at Alex Jackson, and then you are looking at Sean Newcomb would be my next best guess, although Kolek seems to maybe be back in the picture. In and out, obviously, is a guy that throws it really, really, really hard. That pick would be unprecedented because there's never been that type of guy in the high school ranks before. So, Seth, why don't you take it over?
Yeah, no, again, welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining us. We will be joined here by John Bonus as well. But I'm very curious. Again, I don't have MLB Network, so I'm kind of relying on everybody else here to kind of keep me updated on when things are happening. But we know there's 5 minutes between each pick, so we expect the Twins to pick in about 25 minutes. It should be a fun night. We're going to kind of discuss each pick as it happens and go from there. I think it's been interesting at Twins Daily as we've been updating and doing a lot of player profiles the last couple of weeks. Every time you read about these guys, I get a little bit more interested. And I mean, Aiken's very intriguing. I think Gordon's a terrific prospect. I really like Nola. He was more impressive after learning more about him and seeing him. But the guy that I don't even know that we did anything much on, and that's Sean Newcomb. And after reading about him, I would not be terribly disappointed if the Twins took a chance on a guy like that. So, we both think we have a pretty good idea of where the draft is going to go here in the next couple days, or at least certainly tonight or in the first 5 or 8 picks. But like you said before, something strange always happens.
If you are unable to watch and you're just joining us, Commissioner Seelig is getting things kicked off, and he's going to put the Astros on the clock here shortly.
So here's a question for you. If you're the GM, how important is it to the team to get it right when you have the 5th overall pick?
Say that one more time to me, Seth.
When you're picking 5th in the first round, how important is it that you get that pick right?
Well, I mean, anything in the first round, you need to get that pick right. The Twins have just short of $4 million to spend, so it's a pretty hefty investment. But at this point, people will have their board stacked pretty similar. The thing that's an issue is the signability. I think the rumor happened this afternoon that Rodon's asking price is going to be in excess of $6 million, which basically means he doesn't want us. He's not going to settle for anything less than what the pick 2 can get. Pick 3 is under $6 million. So obviously the Twins will have to get it right. But when you can stack your board with 5 guys that are solid players, we're not going to know if it's right for 6 years. And that's the issue. I think if Nick Gordon's the guy, they got it right. And I what's up?
I was going to say in the last 20 years, I took a look at who went 5th overall, and you've got Buster Posey in 2008 to the Giants. You've got Ryan Braun in 2005 to the Brewers. You got Mark Teixeira to the Rangers in 2001. You got J.D. Drew and Vernon Wells back-to-back in 97 and 98. In between some of those, you've got names like Bubba Starling and Matt Hobgood, Mark Rogers, which was taken right before, Ryan Braun, Chris Lebowski, Clint Evers, Justin Wayne, and Twins fans will love that the 5th overall pick in 1999 was Mr. B.J. Garvey. So there are no givens at this stage, even with the number 5 pick.
You may or may not have noticed, viewers, that we are joined live by the Twins Geek. He is inside Target Field, ready to watch the Twins take the 3rd out of 4 from the Brew Crew. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. You look great. You look great too, John.
Well, thank you. Yes, that's the makeup. It's all the makeup.
So, John, tonight you'll be at Target Field. The Twins draft room is at Target Field. Have you had a chance to kind of glean any ideas of what's going to be happening at Target Field as it relates to the draft tonight?
Yeah, what we have been told, and we'll see if it's still going to work out today, is that Darren Johnson will make himself available for questions shortly after the Twins draft their first draft pick, which should be about 6:30. And then we've got a pretty decent shot of also having a interview, a conference call with the first overall draft pick, sometime in the 7 o'clock hour. I don't know if that'll happen before the Google Hangout has to end, but we'll have that update at KFAN at 9 o'clock.
As a good reminder there, Jeremy, John will be at KFAN Studios at 9 o'clock tonight. So check that out at 100.3 FM on your dial if you're in the Twin Cities area. But also
or iHeartRadio.
Or iHeartRadio. Wherever you're listening, you'll be able to listen to them talk about the first-round pick, but also the second-round pick should be made about halfway through that 9 o'clock show. So tune into that a little bit later. Jeremy, where are we at with the number one pick, and what do we want to do? Make your prediction?
We want to make a prediction on the number one pick. Is that what you're asking me to do?
Yep, number one overall pick. Who are you thinking, and how much time do we have?
It looks like it's a minute on my TV. I'm taking Brady Aiken because there's no reason for me to pick anybody else at this point. Brady Aiken, as we know, was a high school teammate of Steven Gonsalves. Was a top 10 guy coming into the year, but had a little uptick in velocity and started doing things more in the mid-90s instead of the high 80s. And just has that left-handed projectable body that has the looks of a frontline starter. He's got I think Callis maybe said that he's maybe better at this point than Dylan Bundy was as a high schooler, and that's pretty big compliment because Bundy made it up very, very quick.
Yeah, the only other name, obviously Carlos Rodon, however you want to say that. That was kind of the favorite coming into the season, but he struggled a little bit. I'm thinking a lot of people think he's going through, and then you mentioned that signing bonus. The other name I'm hearing is Travis Bullock with that number one pick. If he did, he'd be the first right-handed pitcher out of a high school to go number one overall. But I think I'd lean in the same direction as you. My prediction would be Brady Aiken.
No, I'm not even going to hazard a guess. Everybody's been saying Aiken, so I'm going to guess it's not Aiken.
Taking the field.
It's all about hedging our bets, man. Here,
Jeremy,
we're making the first pick.
Watch this. You got to let us know. This is getting exciting. It's great radio, too.
We're right. It's Brady Aiken.
Brady Aiken, again, like you said, teammate of fourth-round pick last year, Steven Gonsalves at high school in San Diego. I think it was Catholic high school in San Diego. And obviously when we had Steven Gonsalves and Lewis Thorpe on the show, we did talk a little bit about Aiken, left-handed, big kid. Gonsalves said he works hard, good guy, all that kind of stuff, the type of things that you would need and you would want from that number one overall pick. Pretty exciting, I'm sure, for him and then for Southern California. That's where the players are coming from. So I guess, Jeremy, as you're connecting us with John here again, how does this pick affect the Minnesota Twins? Probably not, because he's the guy that I think we thought would be going in this spot. So, as far as what it means for the Twins, we were expecting.
Yeah, I think the only thing that this did in the Twins draft room is confirm that the magnet that had Brady Aiken's name on it comes down. And that was anticipated, basically for the last month and a half. So good for him. MLB Network said he's the third prep lefty taken first overall. So that's a pretty neat accomplishment for the young man. He's also not very old, so as far as high school seniors go.
Yeah, he was born in August of 1996, which was about the time that I was going to school to start my senior year of college. So, watching these drafts like this, I can't even imagine what it's like for John, but it makes me feel old.
Hey, quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a quick question. Hey, Seth?
Shoot.
Yeah.
Do you can you try Jeremy? Are you having trouble hearing Seth? Seth is kind of sounding poor. His sound quality's degrading in a hurry. I'm wondering if Seth, you might want to try doing no video, just audio.
I can try it. I also
I don't know if that'll make it.
Ratings.
His audio is always really good for me until we start getting the background audio from Target Field.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself then while you guys are talking.
Now try Seth.
Okay. How do I sound at this point?
You sound fantastic, and you look good too.
I appreciate that very much, even with the missing tooth. Anyway, so jump into the number 2 pick. Again, 5 minutes in between picks, Jeremy, and you're watching it, and I've got, I guess I'm now able to at least have something up on my screen here. The number 2 pick going to the Miami Marlins, and we've talked about it already. I think we all assume um, that Carlos Rodon, the left-handed pitcher from North Carolina State, will go there. Their season came to an unexpected early end, but despite what was considered a off season for him, I think he went 6-7, which we don't care about, but still put up some decent numbers. I guess the thought becomes you got Brady Aiken, who may get to the point where Carlos Rodon has the last couple of years, or you've got Carlos Rodon. So I mean, how do you account for the college versus high school thing, or is it simply those 3 years we learned a little bit more?
Right. You know, Rodon's interesting because he had such a good freshman year that if he could have come out, he probably would have been a top 3 or 4 pick. After a sophomore year, if he'd have come out, he probably would have been the number 1 pick. And yet he comes out then after his junior year, where his win-loss record wasn't very good, or wasn't as good as it had been. His fastball wasn't as crisp, his slider wasn't as nasty, but still put up pretty solid numbers. The big question with him is obviously in college you're not throwing it every 5 days, you're throwing it every 7 days. But there was a game where I think he threw like almost 140 pitches, and then I think it was on like 4 days or 5 days rest, not on a full 6-day rest. So there's the abuse angle that always kind of works itself in with a college guy versus a prep guy, just for the fact that the prep guys are throwing limited innings where the college guys are throwing a ton of innings. So I think we're going to get that pick from the Marlins here real shortly, I mean.
Yeah, I think we did talk about that with Gonsalves too, and he said that high school pitchers give that a lot of thought, knowing that college, especially at big-time programs, they could potentially get abused if they're a top starter. And I guess we'll see what happens. Now, the thought is Rodon could fall a little bit further because of that signing bonus. He is a Boris guy, so he could fall a little bit, and if he does, that may affect the rest of the draft here. So let me know.
We got a breaker here. Tyler Kolek to the Marlins.
All right, well, that completely messes up
Here comes Rodon. Holy smokes. Now, well, how does that affect things? It might just be Rodon to the White Sox, and nothing really changes. But those darn Marlins, man, they're going TK number 2.
Yeah, I think that's pretty surprising that he's going there. I think that a lot of people just assumed that he would go to the Marlins. I know their owner had talked about wanting a Cuban American on the roster and being able to, kind of take over and almost make their decision makers make that pick. But I think that I mean, you have to assume the dollars is what kind of did them in. And you're right. Now it'll be interesting. The White Sox are on the clock. It's always been kind of assumed that they would prefer to go with Kolek or a college arm. And so I'm thinking, if Rodon is still a signability question at that point, could they go, with an Aaron Nola or even a Kyle Freeland or a Sean Newcomb? Could one of those guys jump up that far? I can't, as it affects the Twins, could they be interested in Nick Gordon?
Well, I think, I'm going to take I'm not going to answer your question right now because I want to make a point that I tried to make last night in my mock draft. And I think that the thing that kind of changed things for me, and I didn't put Rodon to the Marlins for one reason, and that was they knew that it was going to cost them. And instead of holding on to that comp pick that they had that could have afforded them a little extra wiggle room, if you will, they traded it. And with trading that pick, it takes money away from their pool that they could have maybe used to help persuade Rodon to sign. Now Kolek isn't gonna take all that money, and now the Marlins still have that flexibility. Now they have one less pick. They also have less cap room essentially. But that was one thing to me that said maybe Rodon's not the guy, and I thought at the time, well, maybe I'm just being stupid, and maybe that has absolutely nothing to do with it. but for me, it's one of those things that crept into my mind, so I want to point out. Now, back to your question. Could the White Sox be interested in Nick Gordon? Yeah. I mean, he's good enough to be in consideration. You got to wonder if they thought they were getting Kolek, if Rodon now is too expensive because his demand is greater than what they have to offer. Could it be Gordon? Sure. Could it be Alex Jackson? Sure. Like you mentioned, could it be any college pitcher? It could. I don't anticipate it being Nick Gordon, but if it is, that would definitely make our show a little bit more interesting for the next 15 minutes. Currently, there's a minute and a half on the clock for number 3.
We just lost John. He's going to connect with us hopefully later. And again, if not, join us at 9 o'clock at KFAN.com, iHeartRadio, or on your dial. Jeremy, now we're to about a minute. Take a minute or take 30 seconds, and then I'll give you my thought. Who are the White Sox going to take here?
Seth, I don't know, but I'm going to go with son of a gun. This is a tough one, but I'm gonna go with Rodon. I'm gonna go with Rodon.
Okay, I'm good with that. I'm actually gonna think he's gonna keep falling a little bit. I think he'll maybe even the Cubs are not gonna be afraid to spend on him. I don't think, but I'm gonna say Nola. I think he's gonna jump because I do think they're gonna want a college pitcher. They're gonna want to compete quickly. And that's my guess. I mean, of course, we're all just guessing here, and we'll react in just a few seconds when you let me know who they actually took.
For the record, because I know you guys are all keeping it that are watching live, Baseball America's Top 500 had Brady Aiken number 1, and had Tyler Kolek number 2, and has Carlos Rodon number 3.
Very interesting. So we'll find out what they're going to do down on the south side.
And it's at commercial currently.
Well, that's terrific. That doesn't help us.
And the pick is in. They're showing the White Sox draft room. They look pretty content, but they should because, they're only making a decision that could impact their franchise for the next 15 years.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, here we go. Carlos Rodon it is. They went with the lefty. And although the order was...
I thought they were. Well, we were kind of back. I mean, those two flip-flopped to where we thought they would go. So we're kind of back to where we're feeling pretty good about our 4, 5, 6, 7 picks, right?
I think so, but like I warned again, who knows with the Cubs? I literally, it could be 10 different guys here, and I wouldn't be shocked. They want that pitcher. It could be Nola, like you mentioned at 3. My first mock had him taking Jeff Hoffman, and I thought, that's not crazy. The guy's going to miss the year, but he still has very, very high upside. It could be Schwarber. It could be Conforto. It could be Freeland. There's some thought out there too that the Cubs might be into Nick Gordon, and if he was going to go before the Twins, this was going to be the guy, or this was going to be the time that it happened. So there's still 3.5 minutes left on the clock here. And really anything could happen.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Cubs are kind of the team that nobody has any clue what they're really thinking. Although lately we have seen a lot more of them looking to go college position player. But their farm system's loaded with hitters. You got Baez and Chris Bryant from last year's draft, and I mean the list goes on. Almora from the year before that.
Yeah, they're there.
Right, so this is a stocked organization, so, especially with the fact that they're going to be trading Jeff Samardzija at some point here and accumulating more talent, but again, as we talk about all the time, it's about getting best player available at this portion of the draft, and that's just what you have to do. I think the one piece here is if they feel they can do something from a cost savings standpoint, and I get it. They're Cubs; they don't need to do a cost savings thing, but from a business sense, it may in fact make sense if you can get someone later at a better price. Everything I'm hearing though right now is either Conforto or Pentecost. So I mean, it's kind of that's the direction we're hearing. But I'd have to think that if they did take Nick Gordon, there'd be some disappointed people in the Twins draft room. Not that they wouldn't be ready for that scenario, but I think there's a lot of people that are really hoping that Nick Gordon's available here in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, there was some talk yesterday that Schwarber, the catcher from Indiana, could go. Currently, they're checking in with John Manuel of Baseball America. I think we're going to have him hopefully join us, not tonight, obviously, because he's busy, but hopefully on a Tuesday in the not so distant future.
Yeah, I think that would be great. We'll be hopefully be able to get him. We're hoping to get a few other draft guys to talk over the next couple of weeks. To kind of join in with Jeremy. I think we need to take just a second here. Jeremy has done a ton of great work for Twins Daily, and he's got great sources in and around the Twins and other places. But at the same time, I think we'd be remiss not to mention guys like Jim Callis, who was on the Talk to Contact podcast recently, John Manuel from Baseball America, Jonathan Mayo from MLB.com, Kylie McDaniel. I mean, there's a lot of people that do this 365 days a year, and we all glean information off of them. So I think those are guys worth following on Twitter. And those are guys worth kind of getting to know their names.
There's the feeling inside the Twins draft room is that Gordon's going to get to them. So I don't know necessarily that they're not telling me that Gordon's going to be the guy, but they're hoping that, or the feeling in there is that this is going to be a college bet. That's the feeling in there and around the nation. But they do some crazy things, and that's why I'm interested to see. There's 15 seconds left on the board as we speak. There's currently an interview going on with Brady Aiken. They're showing the Correa, Appel, and Aiken first time ever a team's drafted the 3 first-round picks. Based on what the Astros have done this year, I think there's a pretty good chance that they're not drafting first next year with the likes of Springer and John Singleton. But I do know that the Astros will not sign Brady Aiken to a long-term deal because major league contracts are prohibited. So we'll have to wait on that one for a couple of years anyway.
So Jeremy, who's your pick?
Gosh darn it, I'm gonna go with Kyle Schwarber, and we'll see what happens. I've been wrong once already, so I'm not afraid to be wrong again.
That's all right. I'm going to go with Conforto, and I do want to encourage. I don't know if you've got your Q&A up on your Google Plus page. Those of you listening, please feel free to ask us questions on Twitter, on the TwinsDaily.com site, wherever you can. Send us your questions and help us get through these moments when we're kind of making up things to talk about in between picks. How much time we got here before the pick?
The pick is in, and my MLB feed just pooped on me. So they're still at commercial. We'll figure this out. Get it reloaded. I might have to step away to hear this next one.
All right. Again, thank you all for listening. I did want to mention, did you know Ron Gardenhire was a 6th-round pick in 1979 with the Mets, and he was up by September of 1981. That's a pretty quick guy to kind of have move up the system. But who are the 2 Twins coaches that are former first-round picks? We'll answer that as we're waiting for the Twins to make their pick.
You want to know who the current Twins coaches are that were first-round picks?
Yep.
Steinbach and Molitor?
Oh, I forgot about Steinbach, but he wasn't the first-round pick. Tom Berdansky was the 14th overall pick, and Paul Molitor was the 3rd overall pick in 1977.
Was the 14th overall pick?
Tom Bransky in 1978, I believe.
Oh yeah. Should think about the hitting coach probably, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, the pick is in, and they're getting their paid advertisements in on the commercials because someone's got to make money off this deal. It's not just our teenage the teenage generation that's getting paid.
Yeah, no kidding.
If any of you are actually trying to follow on Twitter, it might be impossible. It's like there's 100 new tweets every second on my timeline. None of
Yeah,
which are mine because I can't even get to the top.
and I'm in a position where nothing of mine is working. The laptop is being incredibly slow, and I'm trying the Kindle thingy here and see if that works any quicker.
Did you try to connect to the Canadian Wi-Fi or not?
Maybe that was the problem. It was the Canadian exchange rate. It's a little bit slower.
Because they do things in the metric units, I think.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
We're going to get this pick here relatively shortly, I would hope. It's going to be a college bat if the Cubs do what everyone thinks they should do.
And Jeremy may be proven to be quite the soothsayer here.
Say that one more time.
You may
Here we
be
go. We're on the board.
a soothsayer.
Kyle
Like this
Schwarber,
dead air.
catcher, Indiana.
Somebody
That's
called
Jeremy one.
TwinsDaily.com. Why don't you take a follow?
Jeremy 1, Seth 0. So I think I've only missed on number 2 so far.
Yeah, it's kind of.
MLB Network's calling it a surprise.
I have a sense that there will be zero surprise when it comes to what the Minnesota Twins do here, and I think they're absolutely thrilled that they have this guy still available.
Oh, I think so too. I think the only issue that was going to happen, the only potential issue in that draft room, is if there would have been one of those pitchers that dropped. I don't know that Rodon was one of those pitchers that they would strongly consider. I think they would have thought hard about Kolek. But at the same time, the guy that I felt like they had number 2 on their board coming in, Nick Gordon, is there, and that's I think that's a good deal for the Twins. They currently have 3.5 minutes on their clock.
Jeremy, just to talk through it here a little bit, Alex Jackson's still up there, and you've talked about it, and others have said he's the best high school bat available, probably in this draft, if not the best bat available in this draft. Aaron Nola's still there, Sean Newcomb's still there, Kyle Freeland. I mean, there's some names here the Twins are going to. I think we both agree they both have. We're probably not going to be rejoined here by John, but yeah, I mean, I think they have the guy that they want. But I think for a minute, let's just talk about Alex Jackson, Aaron Nola.
Yeah, I would be okay if it was Alex Jackson. I've been a fan of Alex Jackson for a long time. Personally, I would like whoever drafts him as an Alex Jackson fan to try to keep him at catcher because I think he's got big value there. If you saw I don't know where it was. I think it's in the draft thread on Twins Daily. I actually had that conversation with a scout, and his response was that he'd have value anywhere. And I said, yeah, but I think basically he'd have more at catcher. And then he asked me how many times I'd seen Alex Jackson live, and I'm like,
Right.
I don't really get to Southern Cal very often. And he was like, yeah, that's what I thought. So, I know that the Twins like Jackson, but at the same time, Nick Gordon is a, he's not a safe pick because that's hard to ever say about a guy that's a high school shortstop that's 170 pounds, but he's going to have defense that plays, and when you have bats that you're buying, and I get that, but there's a huge jump from high school to low A to double A to the major leagues when you're swinging a bat because the balls come in differently, right? That's obvious. But when you're talking about a ball rolling at you or skipping at you, you that's going to be the same, right? Just field it and throw it to first. Now, obviously, guys hit the ball harder. The exit speed off bats bigger, but that adjustment defensively, when you're there already as a plus defender, or at least as an average defender, or as a shortstop that can stick, you know what? There's some safety in that. At the same time, you can have a shortstop with a great glove and no bat, Seth. And how do people feel about those types of guys?
About shortstops who don't stick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fans aren't very happy about that, you know. I mean, but at the same time, you're going for the best talent, and we've talked already about how many guys, you know, even get to the big leagues. And the Twins definitely love athletes. And even if a guy can't stay at shortstop and he can move to second base or move to third base or move to the outfield, you know, I guess we'll be okay with that. But when you do have a guy that you think can actually stay at shortstop, and the thing about Gordon is he's certainly got the genetics.
Bloodlines. Yeah.
His dad played a long time in the big leagues. His brother D. Gordon is the second baseman with the Dodgers right now. And he's very different from his brother. His brother wouldn't be a top 5 pick most likely. He can be because he can hit a little bit more, not quite as quick, and definitely people think he can stay at shortstop. Obviously, there's a lot that can and will change over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and the thing is too that we got the Twins. Here we go.
Twins are definitely picking Gordon.
Nick Gordon it is. Put it on the board.
Yes.
Yes. Nick Gordon is in studio in Secaucus, New Jersey, or I think that's where this is held. You know, getting some love from the family.
Yeah, he talked beforehand about how his dad was there. I'm sure his whole family's there. His brother told him he wanted to be there, but obviously the Dodgers do have a game, so he's probably not going to make it.
Yeah, he's putting on the Twins jersey.
That's going to be fun.
No, there it is.
By the way, at Twins Daily, we're going to shortly have an article about the Twins picking Gordon, so be sure to check for that. But make sure you're watching this on its own screen, and then check Twins Daily. Just find out what we have to say and get your comments in there.
The talk here is that there's you know, I just heard him say, yeah, Nick Gordon's going to stay at shortstop. I think that's something that we gotta remember. Seth, do you feel like he starts down in the Gulf Coast League?
Certainly. Yeah, I'm sure, you know, if they're able to sign him relatively quickly, I'm thinking he goes to Fort Myers, starts with the GCL, and if he plays pretty well or looks like he's not overmatched, there's no question he could get to Elizabeth, and that's the path they used with Byron Buxton and J.O. Barrios 2 years ago. It's the path they used with Cole Stewart and Steven Gonsalves last year. It's about two things at this stage. It's about, one, this is a high school kid who's lived with his family his whole life. He's always had them around, and that's going to suddenly change. And coming out of high school and, you know, not having any, you know, not going to college, it's going to be an adjustment there. So you're adjusting to life as an adult. You're adjusting to having a job. You're adjusting to the way an organization does things. So I really like the fact that even if they draft college guys, they let them do that in Fort Myers and the GCL, and then in Elizabethton, you know. And yeah, Gordon's not going to get up this year to, you know, Cedar Rapids, but, you know, it's very likely we'll see him there right away next year.
Nick Gordon just described this being drafted as the greatest feeling in the world. He looks forward to the Minnesota winters, he said. He didn't actually say that. I made that up.
Yeah, I was going to say he's from Orlando. I'm thinking he'll have have his winters down in Florida, I'm pretty sure. I guess
He
when
looks
it
over
rains
well.
or anything, but it absolutely downpoured about 2 seconds after the Twins picked Gordon. So I hope that's a positive thing. It generally is, right?
Hey Seth, you were just in Florida recently. How close is Orlando to Fort Myers?
Not having made that trip, I think it's probably in the neighborhood of 3 hours, 3 to 3.5
So
hours, I'm guessing.
he'll be relatively close to home to start his career.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, it's a morning's drive or something like that to get down there.
Jim Bowden of ESPN tweeted, "Great pick by Twins with Nick Gordon, who could end up the best position player in this draft. Smallest risk of any player in this draft." Thrylos tweeted, "Twins blew it big time with this selection. Not the best player available by far." That's why one works for ESPN and one doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. Now we have to assume Alex Jackson's probably going to go here to the Mariners with the sixth pick, but I mean I think you're right, and we've heard that written in many different ways. That there's a good chance, although Jackson's probably the better bat, that Gordon's odds of getting to the big leagues and being a long-term successful player are pretty high, and that's unusual for a guy coming out of high school.
Just of note, Nick Gordon is on Twitter. It's at NickyG_IV. When I opened his profile, he had 1,500 followers. He currently has 2,174 followers. So people are welcoming him to Twins territory, and lots of people excited to have him on board.
We're getting a good amount of hail right at the moment, so I've got a little Taylor on right here. You want to say hi? No.
That's the joys of live broadcasting from your basement. My kids are, one's dancing, one's doing baseball, and one is just along for the ride, as far as I know. So,
Can you even hear me, or are you just hearing loud clanking off the roof and the windows?
I don't hear any clanking. I hear Josie.
Okay. That's some good hail out there, huh? Sorry about that, everybody. It's slowed down a little bit. Oh, now it's picking up again.
Interesting note from Doogie Wolfson, who noted this earlier in the day. Radcliffe and Johnson each saw Gordon over 10 times. So overall, Gordon was scouted more heavily by the Twins than any other team, and that they absolutely love him.
No question about that.
The feeling now is that Alex Jackson's going to be the guy. Also of note, from what I understand, Nick Gordon is represented not by any bigwig agent, but represented by his father.
That is correct.
So
well.
that should help get things done relatively soon, I would hope. Because I would guess if anybody knows the importance of getting that developmental time in, it would be your former 18 years in the majors league father,
Right. Yeah, I mean, he knows what an agent does. He had one for 20 years, and he had a long career, and he understands what a team's trying to do, but he's also understanding what, as a player, you should be looking for more so than others. So, I mean, I think it's the right route. I think it also gives a perception that, let's just get things done. Let's not play the games that typically happen. Now, we don't know what's going to happen, of course, but I think, the reputation that the Twins do have, and Terry Ryan has, and Rob Anthony have, my sense is this could get done relatively quickly.
The Mariners just selected Alex Jackson. No surprise there. I didn't have that one right in the mock because I had Jackson going to Miami, but no big shocker at that point.
Yeah, again, they're looking for bats. They added a bunch this offseason. Jackson probably 3 years away, but Sorry about that.
I heard nothing. The thing about Jackson, and I heard this as well, that there may be him moving from catcher to right field, but there's belief that Jackson could play third base as well. So we may see that potentially happening. He's got a big bat and gets to stay on the West Coast. Committed to Oregon, so if he signs with Seattle, he'll get to stay relatively near the area. Josie, what's happening over near Canada?
What's going on here?
I'm scared.
How come?
Thunder, I'm scared of thunder
Yep, there's thunder outside.
and lightning.
And lightning.
And lightning and hail. That's kind of a scary day.
Yeah, it's lightening up though. It's getting old. That was a good flash. No, I mean I think, at this point I think we're gonna see a couple of those pitchers we've talked about. I would expect Nola goes here at number 7. And I do think, the team that gets him is gonna get a guy that's gonna be pretty good. A guy that's gonna probably move up pretty quickly. And I think that when people hear the term number 3 with potential to be better, that's a good thing. That should be a first-round pick, and that's what Nola it definitely is.
Yeah, there's 2.5 minutes left on the clock here. I'm going to tell you what I had happening yesterday in my mock draft, if I can find that tab. Give me a second. All good video pods or podcasts make sure that they say that every once in a while. So
Right.
I'm wondering if maybe I'm overloading what I got going on at my house when I'm trying to stream the game or stream the draft, do the hangout, watch the draft. Just as an aside, in Kylie McDaniel's draft Bible that he essentially released yesterday, he had Alex Jackson ranked 3rd and Nick Gordon ranked 4th. Nick Gordon's committed to Florida State, but I don't anticipate that being, any sort of a problem as far as what's going to happen with him signing. Just a reminder, that particular draft pick had the following value tied to it, which was $3.85 million. I don't think it's going to take all that to get done. And the reason I don't think it's going to take all that to get done is the Mariners weren't going to take him. So that would leave the Phillies, who love guys like Nick Gordon, and that's a 3.3. That's all it's at. So, if you can split the difference, 3.85 and 3.3, he could get 3.5, and that really banks the Twins an extra. I don't even know what they're looking, but an extra, basically 7th round pick or so.
Right.
Great question here from Dan Roche. This was one we should hit now while we can. Where does Nick Gordon fit on your Twins prospect list? Seth Stowes, you're the guy to answer this question.
Well, let's start. We've got Buxton, Sano, Meyer, and Stewart, top 4. And I wouldn't put Nick Gordon ahead of any of those guys. The next group is Jose Barrios, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Polanco, and I'd say he fits into that category. Now, are you going to put him ahead of Jorge Polanco? At this point, I'm going to say yes. Am I going to put him ahead of Barrios? That's pretty close, but probably. So for me, probably right now, number 5. And I don't know. That's tough. What will Eddie Rosario do as he gets more playing time again, especially once he gets up to AA? But for me, I'm going to say number 5, number 6 in that range.
Well, here's the crazy part on this question that needs to be said. Buxton is going to be the number one prospect, maybe number 2, number 3. With Polanco moving up, he's not going to be anything less than that. So if we're looking at the guy that's the number one prospect in baseball, you can bet your butt that Sano isn't going to drop too far. I mean, he might not be as high, but if we're looking at a guy that is ranked 16th or 17th, we're going to hear the seventh selection, then I'll get back to my point.
Yeah, and I think we've got about 10, maybe 15 minutes left of us going live. And Jeremy's going to drive over to Cape.
Phillies went with Aaron Nola.
Okay.
Good pick for the Phillies. Anyway, my point was, we're talking about Buxton, who's going to be a number one prospect. Sano, who's going to be top 15. If Alex Meyer's still a prospect, he's a top 20 prospect. Jason Parks of Baseball Prospectus said just the other day that he's got both Berrios and Stewart in the top 50.
Yep.
So we're looking at Nick Gordon could fall in the top 100, and I would assume that he'll be in that maybe 60 to 75 range overall in baseball, and be the number 6 prospect on the team.
Right.
He could be the number one prospect on a lot of teams.
Right.
So, I mean, even right now, if you ask me to make a prospect list, I don't know that I would put him ahead of Polanco. He could be the number 7 prospect on the team and the number 70 prospect in baseball. You also have Lewis Thorpe, who, if he has a good year in high A, and I'm talking just strictly about Baseball Prospectus's top 101, Thorpe was 101. He could move up. And, I mean, that's nothing against Nick Gordon. I think that's what people are going to understand is, oh, my gosh, he's your number 5 pick, but not number 7 or whatever, or number 7 in your organization. There's so much talent in the top part of the Twin system that, yeah, I mean, he's going to be lower than Alex Jackson in Seattle. That's for certain, but he's still a top 75 prospect to start. I'm going to close that question.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of other questions, so we should probably talk to these.
Yeah, let's answer those questions.
Say that again, Seth.
Jeremy, I want to get to 2 quick points, and then we'll get to just kind of going through the questions real quick. And also, I think John's going to join us here. I think he was in the press room talking with Darren Johnson. You talked a little bit about the Phillies, and I've talked to some people. Jimmy Rollins is a good comp, in my opinion, for Nick Gordon and what he can be. I think that's one point I just kind of wanted to make. And secondly, back to the prospect ranking. You know, if you take away Rodon and Aiken, I really feel like Gordon would probably be the highest ranked, prospect guy that could have taken. So, John's back.
Hey, guys.
Talk to us, Twins Geek.
We just had Darren Johnson come in and talk to the assembled reporters. There are about 10 of us in there. He's an exact quote was, "We got our guy." I don't think that necessarily meant that if any of the 3 pitchers were on the board that they might not have taken some of those 3 pitchers. But when asked flat out, what they liked more about him than, say, Jackson, that was one of the things that he said. He said they got their guy. They wanted Gordon. Seemed really pleased with things. He personally hopes that Gordon's going to develop some additional power beyond what he's shown so far. He says that is not a consensus in the draft room, but they feel like he personally feels like they've got some power. And in terms of major league comps, he said if he can develop some power, with that arm and his fielding skills, he could see him being another J.J. Hardy. Down the road as a possible comp. So
that hurts.
Now excited about this pick.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Seth.
Nick Nelson is now excited about this pick.
That's right. So it was. He was. This is somebody they have been following for a long time. He said they've really seen improvement over the last year. Since they've seen him. They look for a guy who's projectable. They think he's very projectable. They have no doubt that he's going to stay at shortstop. They drafted him as a shortstop. Somebody joked about whether or not they can if he can't play shortstop, where else could he be? And they said, well, with that arm, he could certainly play third base. Also could play second base, obviously. And somebody asked him specifically about his dad thinking that he could still pitch too. And Darren was very clear. He said, we drafted him as a shortstop.
Well, John, that's some good reporting you just did there. You're like on the scene guy, like they do on the news.
Yeah, just like that. You bet.
Field press conference room. We'd like to appreciate and thank all his efforts today. And John, you're going to be joined soon, hopefully on a press conference call with Nick Gordon. Is that true? Any idea on that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Listen, it's a developing situation all the way around here. They don't know when they're going to get and who they're going to get. They did say that we'll have Darren Johnson on. Will be made available after the second round pick as well, but of course we'll be on KFAN at 9 o'clock, so we won't be able to do that. I did ask him specifically about if they've got a focus for the second half of the draft or for the rest of the draft, and the only thing he said was, "Well, we're not going to draft any more high school shortstops." So,
and I will point out that I am not going to strike out on the Twins mock 10 that I did because I got the first round pick right.
Well, good. That's good for you.
It's all about me tonight, man. All about me.
They also said they weren't very surprised by the top 4 picks. He said, frankly, they do talk to some other clubs, and they had a pretty good sense of where a lot of the other clubs were going. Schwarber was not a surprise to them. That was a name that they had heard recently. Sorry, go ahead, say that again.
From Jeremy at twinsdaily.com today, he picked Schwarber.
Oh, did he? Well, fantastic. Good.
Thanks for reading my mock, John.
I did. I swear I did. I
Schwarber
read a
went
lot of stuff
fourth
today.
for me.
Who are you again? All right, I'm going to sign off, guys.
Well, nobody knows who I am.
I'm going to sign off, guys.
Thanks a lot, John. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, Jeremy, when do you need to leave?
So that was fantastic. Say that again, buddy.
You got 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that the Rockies picked Freeland, who is a Colorado guy, local pick. Good job. Let's buzz through these questions.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not going to get this. I'm going to highlight this question because this is a question. Bill Peterson asked if we're going to put this on iTunes. Actually, this is a question from Paul Pleiss. If it'll be on iTunes, it will. There's a process to uploading that takes a little bit, and I'm going to have to get on the road to make it to the KFAN studios for the 9 o'clock show. So obviously be on the lookout for that. It will be up tomorrow morning, without a doubt. So look for this on iTunes. It will definitely be there. The other question we have is from Bill Peterson. Realistically, when should we expect to see Nick Gordon at Target Field?
Well, I mean, we have to play this out. If we think 2014, he plays for probably GCL and Elizabethton, and I think there's a good chance that he starts 2015 in Cedar Rapids. Now, he could go the Byron Buxton route, but I don't think at this time anyone really thinks that. I'd expect him to spend the full year in Cedar Rapids in 2015. 2016, I mean, if he's a typical top Twins prospect, he'll spend half the year in Fort Myers and the other half in New Britain, so that's 2016. So I'd expect we will see him by, say, June or July of 2017 at the best, at the quickest. So I'd say 2018 would be a very realistic timeline, and that's, 4 years? That might even be pretty quick. If he did 1 year at a time, he would be up by the time he was about 22, maybe 23, and that would still be pretty good and pretty aggressive. So, I guess none of us know. A lot of people thought Buxton was really toolsy and would probably struggle with the quote-unquote hit tool. And last year in Cedar Rapids and Fort Myers, he kind of shattered that. So, we'll learn a lot. We'll learn a little bit about Nick Gordon this year. We'll learn a lot more about him starting next year. Jeremy, anything you'd add to that?
Well, I think the thing that's important to remember is the bat's what's going to need to develop. And that was the same question that Buxton had. Now, he doesn't have Buxton's speed, but there was obviously question about Buxton's hit tool, the question about Buxton's power. I think he hit 2 home runs as he's senior in high school. So you could really draw a lot of parallels between these two selections. Now, I think we're spoiled by Buxton, but if that bat develops quicker than what we expect today, your timeline could be sped up and not have it be completely alarming. On the flip side of that coin, the bat could develop slower than we expect, and it could be a little bit longer. But I think this is a high upside pick, but like Jim Bowden said, it's a safe pick, and that's a very very promising scouting report. One thing to note about Nick Gordon, Brett Dowdy is the area guy that it will be considered the signing scout, and Brett Dowdy is in his first year as a scout. So pretty good start to his scouting career.
Wow. And as obviously people know, there's area scouts, and then there's national cross checkers, and then Mike Radcliffe's probably going to see them, and others as well. So this is a big team effort. I wanted to add one thing about that signability topic we talked about earlier, Jeremy. And you talked about, could he, instead of signing for the $3.8 million, if they could get him for $3.6 million, they can do some things. If you look back at that Byron Buxton draft, I think the slot for the number 2 pick that year was $6.2 million, and they signed him for $6 million, so $200,000 under slot. Doesn't sound like a lot, but because of that $200,000, they were able to sign their 19th round pick that year to $190,000, I believe, and that was Zach Larson. So I think, although he's got the hamstring injury right now, he's a guy that at Cedar Rapids this year had a nice showing. So that's the type of thing you can do even if you're going from 3.8 to 3.6. So not a bad thing there. Obviously, none of us know what's going to happen with Nick Gordon or Aaron Nola or Alex Jackson or even Carlos Rodon and Brady Aiken. But I like the pick today, and to me that's kind of where it matters. And at the end of the day, it's going to matter in 7 years where he's at. So let's kind of let that play out. But I know Jeremy's got to get going here. We're just over an hour. It's just past 7 o'clock. He's got about an hour drive or so to get to the studio. Be sure to join at 9 o'clock. I'm going to call in and talk with Jeremy and John a little bit more about that draft and see what happens with that number 2 pick. And before then, John may have had a chance to talk a little bit more about Darren Johnson's interview or question and answer. Before then, we'll have a chance. I'm going to hope to sit in on Nick Gordon's interview as well. And we're going to have a ton of information available at Twins Daily later tonight and into tomorrow as well. So, again, I'll let Jeremy sign off, but I really appreciate all the efforts that Jeremy's done and John being at Target Field. And thank you all for listening. We do want your feedback, so whether it's on iTunes or Twins Daily or Twitter or wherever you want, please leave us some feedback on what we can continue to do. And Jeremy, go ahead and whatever you'd like to do at the end here.
Yeah, just thanks everybody. More people viewed this live than any Twins Hangout, so hopefully we have some people that can be a fan of us. If we're too ugly, just download us on iTunes, and we won't be offended. Thanks a lot. Join us at 9 o'clock. Come back tomorrow to Twins Daily for all sorts of draft coverage. My whole day is set up to bring you information, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So thanks a lot, and we'll catch you on the FM dial here in 2 hours. Peace out.
See y'all.